Mr. Tim Pool is a rather centrist individual, and as I occupy this space, I feel like I have a decent understanding of why certain ideas don't make it across the aisle. And right now we have this story from Vox, the Green New Deal explained. An insurgent movement is pushing Democrats to back an ambitious climate change solution. Right off the bat, you have lost the conservatives, okay? Listen, I, for one, am willing to believe in the the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, when they say that climate change is a serious problem. Well, it's simply because I'm not saying they're definitively correct in what they do, but I don't have a better authority to tell me otherwise. If you've got a large, if 50 scientists say this is happening and 10 say it's not, I'm going to be like, look, man, I'm not a climate scientist. I don't know. And if there's more people over here saying it is, I'm just going to place my chips in that direction, right? If I'm going to make a bet, I'm going to make a bet on those who are the experts in the issue, fully recognizing that science, changes. But here's the thing. I think there's an argument to be made for the Green New Deal that has nothing to do with green necessarily, and nothing to do with climate change. Okay? When I see these stories, like in this story, right, I'm going to jump straight to this because, I should probably read into it a little bit more, but they mention something. They say this. The Green New Deal is meant both to decarbonize the economy and make it fairer and more just. This whole article is a pitch to the left on the Green New Deal. And when I look at conservative sites, like I was looking at the Daily Caller, I think, they're calling this a massive governmental expansion, which is obviously a negative story for conservatives. And while I think, look, when it comes to the Green New Deal, we absolutely need to be critical of government. My biggest criticism of this is that I don't trust Democrats to implement it correctly and without corruption. Look at the Solyndra thing with Obama. That was a huge failure. So why should I have any faith in the Green New Deal? However, I am pretty much for the Green New Deal, okay? And the reason for it has nothing to do with climate change. It has to do with American energy independence and our ability to grow our economy and create more jobs. And look, a lot of people might think that sounds like pandering, but no, it's not necessarily the Green New Deal that I'm talking about. Actually, let's say this. You know what? Forget the Green New Deal. It shouldn't be a political issue when we talk about technological advancement and energy development, okay? You have to realize that a lot of war, like what's going on with Syria, one of the key components of Syria is the Qatar-Turkey pipeline. We are trying to build a pipeline to bring natural gas from Qatar through Syria and Turkey into Europe. Because Syria wouldn't let us do it, they're an ally of Russia, well, bad things started to happen, and now America has an interest in foreign war. Trump is bringing those troops out of Syria, and that's, in my opinion, that's a great thing. But that means we do need to figure out how to provide more energy. One of the core components, if not the core component of any economy, is energy, okay? When it comes to fracking, when it comes to natural gas, when it comes to oil, we have to make sure that the amount of energy we put in, we get more back. And so the economy has to be able to support that. There's a simple argument, in my opinion, for presenting these kind of plans to conservatives that the left never talks about. We want America to stay on top. We're currently in a massive conflict with Russian interests, with China's interests. It's kind of like NATO versus BRICS. But look, we've got America at its heart. The potential of a Green New Deal is a massive expansion of jobs, boosting the economy. So you're going to get more money into the hands of engineers and people working these jobs to build and advance new technology. More solar, more wind, more geothermal. And what that means is these renewable energy systems will make us less dependent on foreign oil and foreign energy. No, don't get me wrong. I fully understand America. I believe right now it is the largest producer of fossil fuels. But it's not even about climate change. It's just about making sure we diversify our energy portfolio. We can make America stronger and more competitive and more productive if we start looking for renewable energy sources, because there'll be less of a requirement for oil exploration and things of this nature, and it just makes sense. So I don't understand why people don't approach this from the standpoint of strengthening America, creating jobs, and when they come at it when talking about like fair and just, I don't even know what that means. Like you're clearly pandering to leftists on this who already agree with you. You need to convince conservatives and the right that this makes sense. Now, here's where I'll stop. There's nothing I can do to convince anyone who's conservative or on the right that the government will do this properly. In fact, in my opinion, I think the government would screw this up horribly. Therein lies the challenge. Now, part of the Green New Deal is, I should probably just read this, but they talk about, let's read what they say. They say, plenty of Democratic politicians support policies that would reduce climate pollution, renewable energy tax credits, fuel economy standards, and the like, but those policies do not add up to a comprehensive solution. Certainly nothing like what the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change suggests is necessary. So again, that's not what I want to focus on. I want to talk about what they're proposing. So here's what they say. Here we go. As we will see, the exact details of the Green New Deal remain to be worked out. Big problem there, but just because they haven't worked it out, actually, let me stop right now and say this. They haven't worked out all the details, but here's what's important. If you're a conservative, if you're on the right, you shouldn't say, well, they have no plan, it's a ridiculous idea. No. This is where you come in and say, okay, before you finalize things, make your demands. Right? This is where the conservatives need to engage with people like Cortez and people on the left who want the Green New Deal and say, instead of just letting them take it all for themselves and present these ideas and then try and jam them through, conservatives need to get in there and say, here's what needs to be included and removed, and come up with a deal that can help us generate new technologies and energy development. Because, look, market growth is tied to the amount of energy we have available. The more energy we have, the faster the market grows, the better the economy. I'm not talking about these jobs. I'm not talking about, they invest in a solar plant and now there are people with jobs at a solar plant. I'm saying that once we have cheaper energy, the costs of production will go down and jobs can be made across the board and we can expand the economy and our market rather dramatically. So it's actually kind of funny, in my opinion. You see the far left, like advocating for this stuff, especially when they're kind of like post-capitalist types and socialist types. Like, you realize that massive energy expansion in the US is going to explode our economy in many fantastic ways the right would probably be happy with and the environmentalists would probably be unhappy with. Because another thing you gotta realize is they keep playing up this environmental angle. And I'm like, yes, play up the environmental angle, but also realize that the expansion of energy production will lead to a market expansion, a production expansion, and a waste production expansion. The more people are buying, the more waste we have. So we do need solutions for that, don't get me wrong. But it's like, it seems rather silly to me. Now, the point I want to make is, they're talking about, in the loosest sense, a massive program of investments in clean energy, jobs, and infrastructure meant to transform not just the energy sector, but the entire economy. It is meant both to decarbonize the economy and make it fairer and more just. Okay, this part right here, you don't need it. You don't need it. You're talking to a specific group. Now, I get it. Look, this is Vox trying to pander to people who probably already agree with them. But let's say this. If the government could take part of its existing budget, no new taxes, I'm talking about existing budget, military spending, military invests in this kind of technology all the time. If they can take a part of the existing budget and invest it in companies and research that will develop better means of energy production, that's going to be a win-win across the board. And that I'm totally on board with. Now, again, they call it a Green New Deal, and right away, you're pandering to the left. There's an argument to be made that the Green New Deal actually made the Depression, or I'm sorry, that the New Deal from, way back when made things worse. I don't know. I'm not an economist. You have to have that argument. The way I see it, though, is whenever, there's a really good thing to be done here, okay? But the left continually, they call it a Green New Deal. They say it's about climate change. Well, who are you advocating for? Because you have to recognize that Democrats, many Democrats, centrist Democrats, have to contend with conservatives who are concerned about the economy. So if you want to pitch this deal, let's talk about economic growth and a sustained economic growth, and let's talk about how you, as a government, are going to avoid corruption and make sure this is done right. Here's my biggest gripe with this. If you told me the government was going to take existing budget, invested in solar companies, geothermal, wind, tidal energy, all of these really great new technologies, I'm like, I'm on board. Except, I believe the government would screw this up. There's going to be crony deals. They're going to give their buddies contracts, and it's going to be Solyndra all over again. Now, I'm not too familiar with Solyndra. You may be familiar. Basically, Obama invested in the solar company. It was a big failure. And that's scary, because that's a waste of resources. It is. We need to figure out right now how we can go about these investments, grants, and research to strengthen America by diversifying our energy portfolio within the country, expanding the amount of energy we get from renewable sources. That will make us significantly more competitive in the international market, and it will help America maintain its position as one of the top countries on the planet. To me, that sounds like a sales pitch to a conservative. Say, hey man, we want to diversify our portfolio and make sure we don't lose out China's economy is exploding. They're doing oil exploration in South America, in Africa and South America. We need to be competitive. So I'm not, me personally, I'm not saying end oil production. No, by no means. But we definitely need to make sure we can diversify. And I'm curious as to why no one's pitching that. So let's look. So they talk about how the concept isn't new. I didn't really want to read through this because it's, again, the point I'm trying to make is that they're pitching this to the left, and there needs to be a way you can pitch this to the right. They say that Van Jones wrote a book about green jobs back in 2008 and even worked briefly as an Obama green jobs advisor before a right-wing smear campaign drove him from the administration. The whole green economy frame almost took root, but once the Dems went on the defensive in 2010, it faded into the background. Here's what I want to see. Here, I'll tell you what I want to see, and I'm just gonna, I'm over this. I want to see conservatives who, like, we need somebody who's going to approach those who are putting together the Green New Deal and make sure the crony BS doesn't happen, that tax increases aren't a part of this, that we can allocate our existing budget and the money we already have to make sure this happens correctly. But here's the thing, the only way it will happen is if people on the right are willing to engage and make sure this becomes a bipartisan thing and all the bad stuff gets blocked out. Or you know what, I'll end here. Maybe you disagree with me. Maybe you think clean energy, or I shouldn't necessarily say clean energy, but renewable energy sources and new technology is a bad thing, which would be shocking to me because I think new technology is awesome, and most people probably agree with it. Let me just end by saying this. You let me know how you think we can go about developing new energy technologies, making ourselves more competitive. I know we're like the biggest fossil fuel producer, but that doesn't mean we should stop. No, the race is on. We've got competition in the international market, and this includes war and stuff, right? So let me know what you think as to how we can better improve our infrastructure. Maybe, look, I know a lot of people are going to say free market for sure, but I'll say this. The free market isn't incentivized for international conflict. To an extent, the military-industrial complex is encouraged for this kind of stuff. But when it comes to private businesses in the U.S., look, man, selling Twinkies is going to make me more money than trying to develop a massive solar technology company. So there's got to be some kind of investment. There's got to be some kind of grant process or research, universities, and whatever it is, it's got, once the government gets involved, there's a huge opportunity for that kind of corruption that needs to be weeded out. And if that's the case, I would like to see people who oppose kind of corruption getting involved. I'd like to see some conservatives get involved with these people and make sure that doesn't happen. If that's your concern, we need those voices. But again, maybe you disagree. Let me know what you think. I got more videos coming up. I'll see you in a few minutes.